What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, the official Cliffy J, and I just want to hop on here and talk about Survivor 48. And man, this season needs a facelift. But I just want to talk about some winning scenarios for each player and what I think is actually going to happen. I'm not going to waste any of your time. Let's get into today's video. Mitch's winning trajectory is really 100% tied into the edit. There's not really a realistic situation that he wins based on what we're seeing because I think he'll be out at Final Five. But let's go through the situation that I think he could win in. What would have to happen is Mitch and Camila would probably have to throw Kyle under the bus. Because if Kyle is not the threat or Camila is not the threat over Mitch for Joe and Eva, then there is no way that Mitch doesn't go home. Because at the end of the day, Joe and Eva will likely control this next vote because they will probably both be safe, right? If they're both safe, neither of them can be voted out, obviously. So the target will be turned on Mitch, Kyle, and Camila. And in that situation, Mitch would have to make a articulate enough pitch that they could send Kyle home, someone they've been working with the entire game. And I just don't see that happening without the help of Camila, right? So let's say Mitch and Camila make that pitch. They're able to get Kyle by that final four. I mean, at final five. Then at Final Four, Mitch or Camilla would have to win immunity to have it be Joe and Eva in fire making. After that, let's say Joe gives up his game for Eva. Very possible based on the edit. Boom. Now we're at a final three with Eva, Mitch, and Camilla. And I think Mitch could win that. I don't think he would, but I think Mitch could win that with the votes of Cedric, Chrissy, David, and Shaheen. And Joe. No, not Joe. I don't know why I even said Joe. Joe's voting for Eva. But I could see him winning with those votes of those players. So that is his winning scenario. But as we know, it's way, way more realistic that he doesn't even get to the end or he loses at the end to Camilla. I do think those are both more realistic circumstances. Let's move on to Eva. I don't see Eva winning, brother. I don't know. But if we're gonna go off of recent trends, she could be like a reverse Marianne Gabler, where she started off with some good, strong content that made her seem like she could possibly be a contender. And then we turn it on its head, and now she's dodo content every episode. So it could be, you feel me? You don't really know there. I don't really know there. But let's talk about the scenario that I think she could win in. I think for her to win, her winning Final Five immunity would be very good. That would add on to her quote unquote resume, right? She's able to, get to the next round with her main ally in Joe. But if I'm gonna be honest, for her to win, she might want to just cut Joe. Cut Joe at the knees at Final Five. Don't use the idol on him. Blindside him. Let him go home, right? Then you're in the Final Four. You got to win the next immunity because you're going to get sent in if you don't, right? So you win the next immunity. You put Kyle versus Mitch. Whoa. Mitch smacks Kyle. If Mitch can beat Kyle, there you go. There's her winning scenario with the votes of Chrissy, Mary, David, and Joe, right? That's four right there. And then the rest of the votes kind of just go because she might be able to get it then. Obviously, Camilla could just get the other four votes. But we're saying how Eva could win. It's not that many situations. It's not realistic. But that's her realistic winning. Not even realistic. That's her winning scenario right there. Boom. Next up is Camilla. And not gonna lie, I see a few scenarios that could lead to a Camilla win. One is Mitch out at Final Five. Eva or Joe wins Final Four immunity. She faces Kyle. Kyle goes home against her and fire, and then she's able to pitch her and Kyle's game against Joe and Eva, the honesty and integrity versus the self-interest strategist. I could see her being able to get that, especially based off of what we were told in that other confessional with her and Kyle not confessional, but conversation with her and Kyle talking about being able to beat Joe and Eva at the final three if they're able to pitch their game correctly, articulately. That's why the Shaheen move was very important for their game, in my opinion. At that point, if she's able to pitch her game correctly, I could see her getting the votes of Star, Mary. She's obviously getting Kyle. She could get David and possibly Mitch, and that would be it. I think Joe would still for surely get Shaheen and Chrissy and maybe Cedric. So it would definitely, and maybe even Mitch. So it would definitely be a close vote. If it is a tie, obviously Joe would win because Eva would vote for him. But I do realistically think that that is her winning scenario. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think she's going to stay too loyal to Kyle. If she gets to final three, it would be with Kyle. If she doesn't get to final three, it would probably be because of Kyle. So I don't see her winning because she would lose to Kyle, probably would lose to Kyle in fire and lose to Kyle in terms of if Joe and Eva are safe. I think Joe and Eva would vote out Camila over Kyle. So I don't see her winning, but you never know. And the next player that I'm about to talk about is Joe. And to be honest, just like most people, the only true contenders in my eyes are Joe and Kyle. It's pretty simple based on the edit. I think Joe is playing with house money. I think Joe is the biggest threat at the end to win. So, with that being said, all Joe has to do is either win the next two immunities or Eva win the next immunity, plays her idol on him, and then he has to just win fire. It's a very, very likelihood that he will make it to final three. And I do think that him being the godfather in people like Chrissy's eyes, I think Chrissy would have the vote for him. I think Cedric will probably lean voting for him. I think Kyle, it will be debate between Joe and Kyle for him, but I think Cedric would lean voting for him if Kyle's not there. I think Kyle would be a tough sell for him to beat Kyle, especially if Camila is there, because they would just jump him. They would just jump him in the jury speeches, and it would be hard for him to get a significant word across. I think it would be tough with a lawyer and someone like Camila that's seeming like she's going to be pretty good at debating too. So I don't necessarily think it's a foregone conclusion that he would win if he gets to the end, but I also think it's very likely that he could also beat Kyle, especially if the jury isn't liking the way that Kyle has played the game, because I don't think that's a guarantee, especially with some of the red herrings that we have gotten throughout the season. On the other hand, on the other hand, the edit has also kind of thrown Joe under the bus a little bit, that he possibly has rubbed certain jurors the wrong way, like Mary and David, and even possibly Chrissy. Maybe Chrissy's looking like, bro, you played that same boring game. Even though she's going to vote for him. But let's be real. She's voting for the Godfather, right? But it would have to be against Kyle. I don't really truly see her losing. I mean, don't see him losing to anybody else. I think that the scenario for him to lose against Kyle would be him winning Final Five immunity, not voting out Kyle. Kyle winning Final Four immunity, sending Eva against Joe, Joe winning, and then Kyle and Camila, like I said, just jumping him, shattering his entire likely honesty and integrity pitch, and Kyle being awarded the win at that point. Now, Kyle winning is basically very much intertwined with Joe's storyline. For him, the best case scenario is him or Mitch or Camilla wins Final Five immunity. They're able to take that shot at Joe. They take that shot at Joe, then it really doesn't matter who wins the next challenge, because even if Eva wins and sends him into fire, all he would have to do at that point is smack Camilla or Mitch. You know what I'm saying? As long as he's able to smack him, beat him, if he can beat Camilla or Mitch in fire, it will be a guaranteed win at that point, in my opinion, because Joe's not there and he's, excuse me, and he's the second biggest jury threat. So that is like his realistic winning scenario is him, Mitch, or Camilla winning Final Five immunity. They vote out Joe, and then whoever wins Final Four, he goes to fire, whatever. Let's say he wins Final Four immunity. He sends in Eva versus Mitch. Mitch is able to win it. Then it's the final three between Mitch, Camilla, and Joe. I mean, Mitch, Camilla, and Kyle. I can't believe I still said Joe after literally thinking knowing I was going to say Kyle. Mitch, Camilla, and Kyle. And then he's able to get the votes of majority of the jury. Those are the main scenarios I see with each player. What I want to happen, this is what I want to happen. I want for Mitch or Kyle to win the next immunity. Joe to get sent home. I like Joe, but it just has to happen. Camilla winning the next immunity. We have a big debate on, is she going to send Kyle? Is she going to do it to Kyle? That she doesn't send Kyle and she sends in Eva and Mitch. Mitch wins or Eva wins. I don't really care at that point. Let's say Eva wins, and then we have Kyle smacking him up in a jury vote. That's what I want to happen. That's my most hope and prayer. But what do I think is going to happen? Unfortunately, I think all roads lead to a Joe win. Like, if I'm gonna be completely honest, I think Kyle having the bitter jury segment kind of being hinted, I think he would lose it due to a bitter jury against Joe. I think they would look at Joe as the figurehead of the alliance, but not just the figurehead, as the actual leader, right? So I also think Joe could break the immunity record. I don't think that's far fetched. I think if he does that, he could get even David's vote, someone that's all on Kyle's jock. You know what I'm saying? Right? So at this point, what I think will actually happen is Joe winning Final Five immunity. They send home Mitch. Then Joe winning Final Four immunity. Camila gets sent home. And then we have a Kyle, Joe, Eva Final Three. And Joe completely destroys Kyle in a jury vote. It's not close. There's been a lot of debate on if it's going to be close. I don't think it'll be close. I think Joe will win decisively. I think Joe will win, especially with him breaking the immunity record. I think Joe will win with the votes of Shaheen, Chrissy, David, Star, Cedric, and Mitch. Like, I think he'll have, and then honestly, at that point, it's cooked, obviously. He has a decisive win, and it's considered a dominant win. And I will be pissed off. You know what I'm saying? I'll be pissed off, you know? But that's what I think realistically will happen. I think Joe's gonna win, gonna get at least a 6-1 vote. I mean, a 6-2, because Mary's also gonna vote for Kyle. So I think 6-2 vote. I think that Joe will win next to Kyle and Eva in a 6-2 vote. Eva won't get a vote. And I'm gonna be pissed. I think that I do subscribe to Kyle getting the Charlie edit. Kyle's getting a lot of content, some personal content, some good content, strategic content. He's clearly the one actually directing the way that the game is going. But that's gonna be all for nothing, baby. It's gonna be all for nothing. But that is the end of today's video. That is my opinion on what I think is gonna happen with the rest of this season, rest of this finale. You guys go ahead and let me know what your predictions are. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know if you guys want to see more Survivor videos. Peace.